at Winterfest, and then a week at BGF, and then 3 days for Origins, and then presumably 3 or 4 days for whatever Compass Expo or whatever else is I go to.
So we're 15 minutes into talking about conventions with each other, and I figured I'd go ahead.
You should be recording this. I haven't said anything embarrassing yet.
So yeah. So welcome, folks, to episode 8 of Mention and Dispatches. Still not out of order. I don't want to jinx it. We might make it through this season actually keeping things in order. Who knows?
Inconceivable.
You're right. It is sort of inconceivable. But we're gonna be talking Buckeye Game Fest. Obviously, you recognize the voice of the Ardwolf. Gary, how you doing?
Oh, I'm okay.
Just okay.
I'm okay. This is my 4th podcast recording in the last 7 days.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just podcasts. That doesn't count live shows, or does that count?
That's correct. That does not count live shows.
Yeesh. Well, wait. If you stretch it 8 days, you get us too.
I think I do mean that actually.
Okay. So. Okay. Gotcha. Because you were on last episode with us.
This is true.
And then also a BGF regular and friend of the Dragoons, David Thompson, is here. David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Is this the
first man so handsome he has to be on a podcast instead of video?
Oh.
David, is this the first time we've had you on one of the podcasts? I think it might be.
We did a solo gaming chat late last year.
Right? Yeah, we did. That's right.
Yeah.
Brant's done so many of these he can't even keep track of his own podcast episodes anymore.
Dude, we're at this is episode 112 or 13 for Mention Dispatches. And then we had, 80 odd episodes at the old show before those all disappeared into the
That's
ether.
A lot. Are you on Spotify yet?
No, we're too cool for Spotify.
You could say that, but the fact is that I use Spotify to listen to podcasts when driving.
I need to figure out how to
listen to this podcast when driving because of that. You'll have to put it in as the Armchair Dragoons podcast, though, because there's another podcast called Mention and Dispatches, which is I mentioned back when you were asking for feedback about the name.
Yes,
but I was ignored. I immediately felt at home. That's true. There was a vote. I was outvoted, but
yeah, there was a vote. The second place was pants are optional. We were almost.
I may in fact have voted for that.
So that was almost our second place. That was our second place, but it was a close vote. That was almost the name of the podcast.
You could rebrand this show as No Pants Wargaming or Pants Free Wargaming or Zones of No Pants.
Show up in a kilt and and
there you go.
We can't have Dan on, or he's going to show up in a garter belt and stockings.
I can make God damn it for that mental image. I could accommodate the no pants rule. In addition to simply not wearing pants, I do in fact have 2 kilts.
Fair enough.
So
David's thinking, I stayed up late for this.
Oh my God. He's got to get up at 4 a.m. to design games.
All right. Buckeye Game Fest. So by the time this comes out, we're going to be 3 to 4 weeks out from Buckeye Game Fest. And so Gary, the core events of Buckeye Game Fest itself start on Thursday, right?
So Buckeye Game Fest is run by Buckeye Game Festivals, which split from the Columbus Area Board Gaming Society for 501c reasons several years ago. Basically, the money wasn't working out. It wasn't that there wasn't enough money. It was that too much of the money was coming in a way that was not okay for the type of nonprofit that Buckeye, the Columbus Area Board Gamers is. So they had to split it off, and now it's being run by a separate group, which is pretty much from the same circle of folks that run the Columbus Area Board Game Society. And for at least as long as I've been going there, and this is probably going to be my 5th or 7th or maybe 8th, something like that. It's a 4-day convention, and it is a pretty conventional board game convention. So in the big boardroom from Thursday through Sunday, you will see stuff like a variety of Euros and, maybe the occasional miniatures game or the occasional RPG. But in addition, they are happy to host the War Room, which opens on Monday, the Monday before the rest of the convention. So that gives the War Room folks time and space aplenty to set up large format war games that they can then play all week. Now, there's so much space in the War Room that, people will absolutely come in there and play Combat Commander and Coin and Commands and Colors and all that stuff. So it's going to be, we're doing it again this year. I'm sure you're going to put a link to the event in the show notes.
It is there.
but we're starting, I think it's on April 24th. Am I right about that?
So yeah, the War Room opens up on Monday the 24th, and that's why I was asking. So I think Thursday the 27th is the day that BGF proper, like the rest of it, opens up, right?
Right.
And so that'll be 27 through 30, and so that's Sunday's the 30th. That'll be the day everything wraps up. And look, this is not a giant convention. I think we figure out it was about 300 or so last year.
Yeah, but that's not bad considering the impact of COVID and on face-to-face conventions and stuff, right? Lots of other events are reporting much more serious dips. So my guess this year, and I'm completely spitballing this, it might draw 400 people. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if it does. One of the great things about Buckeye Game Fest is because of its tie-in with cabs, they bring the cabs library over there, and it takes up when I took the picture last year, I had to use panorama mode on the camera to pan it all into the shot. And
I think the last number I heard was they've got about 1,400 games, something like that.
Yep. It's I was gonna say just short of 1,500. So yeah, that's and they bring them all, and it's the same library that you can use at Origins, only you're not fighting 10,000 people to get to it. Right. You're only fighting a couple hundred people to get to it. And so, David, you've been to Buckeye Game Fest a couple of times now, and not just hiding out in the war room with the rest of us reprobates. You actually go socialize with the normal people. What is it about Buckeye Game Fest that you dig?
Yeah, so I go to a lot of conventions, right? When I lived in Europe, I went to Nuremberg and I went to Spiel. I go to Gen Con, I go to Origins, et cetera, et cetera. My favorite size conventions is the Buckeye Game Fest sized conventions, right? I would much rather go to a 300 to 400 person convention that's chill and quiet and I'm there to play games than anything else. So for me, it's the perfect convention. And it's not just that it's that size, but like Gary was saying, it's this amazing mix of sort of like omni gamers, right? Like you can go there and do whatever you want to do, to include the war room, right? So I consider myself an omni gamer, mostly Euros and light war games and stuff. But I love walking into the war room and seeing, I'm not going to play BCS. It's not my kind of game personally, but man, I love watching it. I think it's really cool. I like watching the large size game set up at Origins. I think it's really, really interesting. So, and then here's the holy grail is they have Artemis set up. And you know what? When you want to play Artemis and you don't have to wait in line or fight for a spot or whatever.
Or pay $18 cool. for a 45-minute slot.
Right, exactly. And so to me, it's just the perfect gaming experience, perfect convention experience.
I think for somebody that's been to a bunch of the big conventions, it's you chop out the vendor hall, right? I mean, there's a small vendor room that's mostly arts and crafts stuff and like one person selling stray games that were found in their closet. And then the cabs library gives you all kinds of stuff that you could possibly want to play with. And other than that, you just take the rest of the actual game rooms and shrink them down to a manageable size. And that's really BGF. The fact that it's got the robust war game program is great. You mentioned Artemis. It's got a big main gaming hall. And last year they had a separate room where they let the RPG folks kind of set up camp. So it was a little quieter because that main gaming hall can get a little raucous. Not that there's people being obnoxious. It's just you've got 250 people in a room playing stuff that, eventually the noise bubbles up. So they let the RPG people have a separate room and it worked out pretty well. I mean, I was impressed with the breadth available at BGF last year. Actually, I went, I was looking for something else in my closet and I found my BGF t-shirt from the first BGF that I went to, and it was BGF 8. So it's, that's back when they still used to be in a hotel up off of Highway 161, way up on the north side of town. And everything was in one room. The entire convention fit in a single room. But it was a lot of fun. Gary, the War Room this year, you guys, it seems to have turned into a Labatt Fest.
This is true. And we're calling it Labatt Fest at Buckeye Game Fest. There's going to be what's sounding like 3, might even be 4 tables of La Bataille running at Buckeye Game Fest this year. So
was that intentional, or just a whole bunch of people all independently said, hey, we know we can set up a big game and leave it there and not have it molested. Let's do Labatt.
Well, I mean, it's not like this is the first time I've ever played Labatt at Buckeye Game Fest, as you'll be aware. But no, I think
when you've had like half the room.
But right, the talk is it's not even a quarter of the room. room, but because it's a big room, right? There's plenty of space.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think it's a number of elements just kind of came together to make this happen this year. One, a number of people with big mouths, including myself, started looking at La Bataille in a noisy way. And that's not just me. That's people like me and Mark Ruggiero, and everybody loves Mark Ruggiero. So, and Mark was saying, "Oh, I'm getting to La Bataille. It's awesome. I'm going to come to Buckeye Game Fest. We're going to do all this stuff." And then the Marshall Enterprises folks got into it and said, "Oh, well, if you're going to have a big La Bataille thing, we'll just show up with our own game and some people." And everybody's like, well, that's great. There's plenty of space. So, and then Eric from Eric's Table Napoleonic Battles, Eric Holmgren, he's coming too with some people. And so it sounds like there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be at least 3 tables of La Bataille planned. It's I mean, if you're into playing different rules, I might add. So as befits the La Bataille scene, the Marshall Enterprises folks want to use their premier rules. Once we decided that it wasn't going to be one huge game, it was going to be multiple still huge games, then we decide the folks organizing our table decided that they would rather play with Marie Louise, which is their typical choice, frankly. And then the third table, I have no idea what Eric is planning on running. So, but I'm sure we will find things for him to do as well. This is in addition to an OCS table and whatever else is going on. I have not actually had a coordinating conversation with Grant and Alexander from the Players Aid, but they will be there. They're almost certain to do some large coin event, running multiple coin games simultaneously plus other stuff.
Yeah. Well, and because they're doing coin stuff, I passed on doing any of the coin things for the Dragoons this time. I just put in a couple of smaller ones. I think I put in Brief Border Wars and Shores of Tripoli just to have some smaller, lighter things that, that way folks that don't want to commit to 16 hours of the same game have something smaller they can jump into. So we're going to have some smaller stuff there as well with those two. And then one of the other things that was pretty cool about Buckeye Game Fest last year. So, for a lot of folks that do convention stuff with us or some of the other bigger ones, things are fairly well scripted. You don't have a ton of free time. You're trying to maximize all the time you've got on the tables because you want to make sure you get the same number of tables again in the future for doing your events. Buckeye Game Fest doesn't have that issue, especially with the War Room. And so
tons of tables.
Yeah. Well, not just tons of tables, but a lot of pickup stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you want to play this? Yeah, sure. I think that's how you ended up in your game of Conquest and Consequence last year was, hey, let's throw this on the table. Okay, sure.
Yeah. And it's not just it's not all just Twilight Struggle and Combat Commander and Commands and Colors, right? I've seen games of the Gamers Civil War Brigade series get busted out spontaneously. I've seen the Mark Miklos Battles of the American Revolution get busted out. I've seen GBOH get busted out. I mean, so there's plenty of pickup stuff as well. And if you're having trouble recruiting, you could always go to the big room and corral some of the war gamers in there, because a bunch of them are in fact also war gamers. They just happen to be playing Terraforming Mars in the other room at the moment.
Yeah. And there's plenty of opportunity to tape a sign up on the door that says, hey, at 4, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
If you want to be here. It's informal enough that nobody's going to think that there's a problem with you doing that. So
right.
That, you certainly have the opportunity for that. I'm going to drag along a handful of extra stuff with me that I wasn't going to formally put in the program just in case somebody wants to pick something up and grab it and run. One of the things I was looking at possibly putting in the program, I was originally looking at something from the boys over at Catastrophe Games, but apparently Tim's going to be there. And so if Tim's
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice.
As I understand it, Tim is planning on being there. How much of it's Tim at a table with a bunch of games versus Tim at a table with a bunch of games for sale? I'm not sure what the split on that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Ed from Flying Buffalo's coming too.
Yes. Yeah. So, I was actually talking with him earlier today online that I believe he's bringing a whole bunch of those Aegis counter trays.
I believe so. I expect him to. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was asking me, hey, you would be interested? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Oh, they're nice too. They're a nice alternative.
Well, and he sent us a handful last year, and we gave them all away at Origins last year. If you remember, at the raffle, they were very popular raffle items last year.
Yeah, and they seem to have been. They ran the production run out, by the way, and they're
very
getting,
quickly, if I recall.
Pretty quickly, yeah. Comparably to GMT running their counter trays out, which I assume they're flying out the door at a much higher pace than Flying Buffalo, but that's great. I mean, it helps that they got a lot of attention when they sent me some trays, they sent Stuka Joe some trays, and they sent Mo some trays.
Yeah.
Lots of folks got trays, and hey, I'll use these. These are great. That's why this is the actual reason why I bought this digital caliper, so that I could measure the inside of those compartments accurately down to the quarter millimeter.
Those of you on audio only, which is pretty much everybody because we don't record the video on these things, Gary was actually holding up a digital caliper in the video that we are looking at each other with. That nobody at home can see. So, David, go ahead.
I was going to ask Gary. So let's say, you guys mentioned Players Aid guys are going to be there. Russ from Cardboard Complex are going to be there, etc. So you can always get a pickup game of pretty much whatever, right? And that's awesome. But Gary, tell me like the no kidding war room regulars, like how many people of that is that? And then if somebody walked into the room and wanted to get involved, would they be able to if they hadn't scheduled ahead of time?
So the reality of like large footprint games is that it's hard to get into it unless you've arranged to be in it, right? And there's a number of reasons for that mostly are simple reasons of practicality, right? If you are going to be playing this game for a week, do you want somebody coming into it completely cold? Possibly not. You also, obviously, it's desirable to have like friendly events, right? Which is why the OCS game is, I think, a great opportunity to introduce new folks to OCS, because it's Sicily. They're going to be playing it for several days, but it's not like super high intensity. They're going to be able to get through it in a week at a very relaxed pace. So that would be ideal. In my experience, having done this, having like been the person that shows up and without any clear concept of what he is doing, I don't ever want to actually do that anymore. I actually really strongly want to have an idea of what I'm going to do before going in. Now, they do have an event sign up on the there is room at the Labatt tables, by the way. I will mention that. They do have an event sign up that's done through Tabletop Events, which appears to be down right now because he can't get to their database either. So there's that. But
it's amazing what a month of storms in California does to everydy's digital infrastructure.
Apparently that's what it is. Amazon's running the entire planet's internet as far as I know right now. So apparently that's where their data center is. But yeah, I mean, it's very easy to get into a pickup stuff, but you'll also see stuff that's down on a table for a day or two, right? Not necessarily for the whole week. I think the first year I went, might have been the second year. We played the Dark Valley. It took us about 2.5 days. And then we did other stuff.
So one thing, just I guess for anybody that might be interested in coming or whatever that doesn't have anything scheduled, I remember maybe the first year, the second year I was there, I walked into the war room. I didn't know anybody. But having said that, like clearly, you guys you're in it, you're deep involved, et cetera, et cetera. But all I really wanted to do was kind of watch what was going on and kind of learn, et cetera. And just like the same situation at Origins with ongoing games, everybody was super generous in terms of like welcoming me, talking me through what was going on, etc. And that's awesome. You don't always get that, and there was a very welcoming community.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bataille guys will be super friendly, and they'll explain what's going on, and then they'll stop and argue about the rules, and then they'll go back to explaining what's going on, and then they'll go back to arguing about the rules.
So that I don't get a nasty gram from Dave about us making fun of them arguing about the rules. Whilst arguing about the rules, they do manage to get through like 3/4 of a full game in that change.
Yep.
While the rest of us are just catching up like we're hanging out at a family reunion. I mean, to their credit, they play a crap ton of that game. That's why they keep arguing about rules, is because they keep finding, new situations in the game to argue about.
That can tend to happen. So, and there's an extra variable with Bataille as far as there are parallel rule sets, and it's easy to get them mixed up. So, and that's I'm sure the cause of some of the confusion. But these particular folks tend to have been playing Marie Louise pretty steadily. So I anticipate it was a friendly but spirited discussion last year. Let's put it that way. There were no fisticuffs or invectives or insulting anybody's mother or anything like that. Not even a table.
Dave, back to kind of your question of, if I'm a strap hanger, basically, right? I haven't made a whole lot of arrangements. I may not have signed up for a ton of stuff through tabletop.events. If I'm walking in, what am I going to find? A lot of those small format games, like a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing, are ones that you can always grab somebody and get a quick game of, and you're going to get a lot of pickup games of those smaller footprint ones because there's not a big time commitment, right? Hey, we're going to lunch in 2 hours. We got time to play a quick game of blah, like fill in the blank.
Oh, yeah. And there's plenty of room. So there's side games, too, that will
exactly.
be, the OCS folks will be doing on the side, right? Sometimes that'll be another smaller OCS game, but that does happen.
Yeah. And the other thing that you'll see, so this doesn't necessarily apply to like a coin game where it's the 4 guys that started the coin game going to sit there and play it all the way through. But something that stays set up like an OCS game, it may be that 4 guys started the OCS game and 3 of them are there for the afternoon, but the 4th guy had something else to go do. You may be able to jump in and take that 4th guy's spot for a little bit and get coached through it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And learn a little bit about what you're doing and push some counters around and have a good time without having to commit to staying there for the next 2 days to see out the rest of the sessions.
Yeah.
That's harder to do with Labatt. That's harder to do. You're probably not doing that with the coin games because even though they're longer, you're going to play all that in one sitting.
Oh, yeah. And there's not a lot of downtime in a coin game either where you're sitting, an OCS game, depending on what OCS game you're talking about, you may have 2 to 3 hours between where you have to actually be at the table. That's not going to be the case with Labatt using the Marie-Louise rules. And it's certainly not the case with coin stuff.
Yeah.
So,
on the topic of sort of small format, short games, or small, whatever time period, small investment. One of the most exciting things for me about the convention scene is being able to play the large player count team games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to Russ and the Player Aids guys about maybe playing, just some Quartermaster General or whatever, right? Short games, 6 players. Normally it's hard to get 6 people together at one time. So lots of that in terms of pickup games, lots of opportunity for that kind of stuff for sure.
If you do one on Friday or Saturday, I am game to sit down and do a Quartermaster General. I haven't played it in like 8 years, so I'm happy to sit down and revisit. You'll have.
I'm sure that we'll have at least World War II and World War I, which are the best ones in my opinion, with us for sure. Between the people coming.
I was just going to ask David, what new David Thompson creations are we going to see?
I'll bring so I'll pimp a different convention while we're talking. So I've got my early copy of Undaunted Battle of Britain. I've got it in. So I'm going to take it to Circle DC, which is in a couple of weekends, right? So the end of March, beginning of April, that first weekend. That'll be the first
getting released. You will be on your way to Circle DC. It will be happening as this is getting.
So Circle DC. So I got it in time to take there. So that'll be the first time it's ever played publicly. It won't be released until June. But I'll take it with me. So if anybody's interested, if anybody's listening and interested, I'll have a copy of Undaunted Battle of Britain with me at Buckeye Game Fest. And if somebody wants to play a game, I'm obviously more than happy. And then I think probably I'll take some prototype stuff, the games I have in work. So I've got some narrative war game stuff that I'm working on and a couple of other things. So
yeah, and to go ahead and spoil the plot for people looking forward, the Undaunted events at Origins that Dave is graciously GMing with us in the war game in the war game central area there, the war game HQ. We're planning on Battle of Britain, and at the time I had to submit the stuff to Origins. We just plugged it in as Undaunted because we weren't 100% certain Battle of Britain was going to be ready, but it came through. So that's the plan right now, is we're doing Battle of Britain at Origins also, and should have some copies available there, both as prizes and potentially for sale with one of the vendors. So you get a preview of it at BGF or at Circle DC, and then come on into Origins and come play with us again there. So
yep, yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to seeing what else you've got in prototype stage, because there's always fun stuff there. So
yeah, yep.
Gary, I accidentally cut you off, man. What were you going to ask there?
I don't remember. I just was going to say, David, bring Night Witches if you can, because I want to take a look at that. That's
what's funny. So we'll see. Liz, so we only have one. So Liz and I always do all of our let me Night Witches. Maybe there's some people listening that aren't familiar with Night Witches. Night Witches is a Soviet night bomber unit, right, during World War II. So all woman night bomber unit. So Liz Davidson, Beyond Solitaire, awesome podcast. Listen to it if you haven't already. She and I are co-designing the game. It's coming along. It's super, super light, quick playing, accessible game, because that's kind of our target going in. So we do all of our design work on Tabletop Simulator. Liz does have a physical copy. I had one made and sent to her. We had it sent to her to take to Circle DC. So we'll see what happens. But if there's interest, if people are genuinely interested, I can get a physical copy and made and take it to Buckeye Game Fest for sure.
So I think Gary has indicated he is interested. So that's
I think so. I think we flagged some interest. So I think I'm going to take it. I'll get a copy.
Topic. Can't wait to see it. So
All right. So that's one.
There we go. That's enough. It's a solitaire game, so I think one player is enough.
Yeah. Going back to other BGF stuff, again, run by look, the Venn diagram overlap of CABS members and BGF staffers is like a perfect circle. It's just a matter of what hat they're wearing on any given day. Again, huge library of stuff to check out, and most of it non-wargaming, but a remarkably robust wargame library as well. Dave, you mentioned sort of those gaming omnivores that are willing to sit down and play whatever. You were playing a bunch of different stuff, not in the war room last year. What were a couple of the things that you were playing last year while you were in there?
I don't, it's hard for me to remember, but here's the funny thing about it. So right now for Buckeye Game Fest, I'm planning to play games with both RPGs and war games with the Player's Aid guys, Russ from Cardboard Conflicts. So I'm going to play war games with them some. I'll make my way into the war room and watch what's going on. But I've got a bunch of, from where I'm a DoD guy in my day job. And as you can imagine, working in the Department of Defense, there's a lot of nerds. So there's a lot of gamers. And so a lot of my coworkers who I never get the chance to play games with are both RPGers and board gamers. And so they're coming to the convention. And so I've got a whole day set aside just to play with my coworkers. And we're playing, what is Search for Planet Nine, which is like a Euro game. We're playing an RPG.
That's a pretty cool game too, I think, by the way.
I've not even played it before. This will be my first time playing it. We're playing I think we're going to try to do some RPGs, right? We've been playing Blades in the Dark. Do you know that, Gary?
Yes, I do. Actually,
system?
I've played it. It's very good. If you like roguery and a sort of steampunk fantasy city, that's kind of the shtick. It's pretty cool for it does what it wants to do very well.
Yeah. So very excited. So here's the thing, right? So basically the point is, I'm going to spend one day playing with a bunch of coworkers. We're going to play a bunch of Euro games and RPGs. And Artemis, as I said before. And if they're like, what are you talking about when you say Artemis? We're talking about, basically, it's Star Trek without being called Star Trek. It's a bridge simulator where everybody's, it's run by professionals, so it's really, really well run. But you're taking the role of a Star Trek officer or whatever on the bridge, and you're all playing this, this 4 or 5 person multiplayer.
Helm,
game.
the weapons, the comms, the science guy, the captain, and everybody has information somebody else on the bridge needs.
Right,
and it's fantastic.
It's unbelievable. It's just a fantastic, I just can't believe how good it feels to play as a team in that. So we'll play that, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to play with the Player's Aid guy. We're going to play some war games and Russ and stuff. So it's just it's just the perfect blend for a person like me who straddles all these different spheres of gaming, right? It's just the perfect blend of everything you could possibly want in one convention.
Yeah. I last year I jumped into 2 runs for the Artemis. I walked around a bunch, took a lot of pictures and videos. I did get a full game of Song for War in with those guys. Hope they're back again this year. I did the events that I was signed up to run as a part of it. I was looking at maybe jumping into one of the coin games that the guys were doing. I think it was Friday night was when They had sort of like 5 different coin games all going at once, but there were 2 or 3 people that had never played any of them. So I stepped back and let those guys do it because I've played a lot of the coin games. The first 5 of them I've played a bunch, and so I sort of stepped back and let some other folks jump into those. But yeah, you're right. A ton of different options to be able to jump on there. So
we also played a PAX Premier, a game of PAX Premier, right? There was a lot of that going on too. So
you had your little solo train set board game, so the train route simulator thing going on that you brought.
Yes, somebody, man, this is embarrassing. I can't remember who asked me. Somebody asked me to bring my game Switch and Signal, and I demoed it for somebody or played it for somebody, and I can't remember who it was. That's I hope whoever it was is not listening and offended by me not remembering it. But it all blends together, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and so down below this, the podcast episode here, or in the description, I've also got the links back to our coverage from BGF from last year, and so you can take a look. There's a bunch of pictures and some video that I took in the other game rooms, not just the war room. So you can take a look and see what Artemis Bridge Simulator looks like. You can take a look and see the kinds of things that were being played in the other room. The one that I remember, so the Thunder Alley racing game. It's NASCAR with it. That's not being called NASCAR. First of all, the designers are local. Jeff and Carla are Cabs members. I don't know if they still are. They were for a long time, but they're local there to Columbus. And so not only do they have some Thunder Alley stuff, but somebody actually gets out a giant ping pong sized table and lays out a big track where they put Matchbox cars on it. Instead of moving counters around a cardboard map, you've got this 4 times size Thunder Alley game that they'll get down at one end of the building. And so that's a fun way to do things. There was Rising Sun was going somewhere in there. There's always a couple of Ticket to Ride games. There's always a couple of Carcassones and Terraforming Marses. You can always count on a bunch of those, but you're going to see some really off the wall stuff that you don't see very often. Cause there's always the one person that goes into the Cabs library and says, all right, give me the game that's been checked out the least. I want to play that one. There's always that weirdo in there somewhere. So.
Well, and what you guys talked about before, this is probably, when you think about the Cabs library and how whatever robust it is, and the small number of people, relatively speaking, at Buckeye Game Fest, you're going to be hard pressed to ever find a better library to player ratio, right, than what you're going to get at Buckeye Game Fest.
There's no way there's a better one anywhere. Right. So when you think about, like, let's say, a game like Heat, which I don't know if you guys are tracking on, but it's the newest Days of Wonder game, right? It's a racing game, super popular, and it's out of print because they didn't print enough copies. It was between printings, whatever you want to call it. They didn't print enough copies of it. I don't know this for a fact, so nobody quote me, but my suspicion is that the Cabs library probably has a copy of it. So you have this opportunity to get in there and play, some of the newer hotness games that you probably wouldn't have if you were at Origins, right? Because it would just be checked out the entire time. Yeah, I'm thumbing through the gallery that we had from last year. There was an actual Twilight Imperium game going going.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
They might still be sitting there playing that one.
They might.
Yeah.
Well, I'm given to understand that the current game takes less time to play.
Yeah, it's only 8 hours instead of
16.
12. Yeah, 16. I think there were probably multiple games. I mean, when you're in that big open room, there were definitely multiple games of Twilight Imperium going on while I was there.
And as David alluded to, it's a great event to get in big games, regardless of what your definition of big game is, right? If big game to you means La Bataille and Mont Saint Jean that we're going to be playing for a week, well, we can accommodate that. If big game to you means Empire of the Sun that takes 5 or 6 hours to play, if it's Twilight Imperium, whatever, that takes 8 hours to play, or Civilization or whatever. Here I Stand is another one where it's almost always played at conventions because you really need 6 people for it, right? Those kinds of games are what a convention, an event like Buckeye Game Fest is really, really good at.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And also it's an opportunity for you to check out, not necessarily check out from the library, but to explore some newer, larger title or potentially expensive title that you're not 100% sure on without having to sink $120 into it. Play with, the guy who's already sunk $120 into it. Let them show you how it goes, and then make your own better informed decision after that. So I think that's that is helpful.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that runs the full, like, across the entire convention, right? So we talked about the war room, and we talked about the main hall and the RPG room and all that. The one thing that definitely you get across the entirety of the convention is that everyone is willing to. It's a very friendly community.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I will say, that no matter where you go, if people are constantly looking for gamers, looking for teachers, welcoming new players, etc. So no matter what room you walk into while you're there, you're going to be warmly welcomed.
Yeah. And they want to help find you a game, but they're not those, aggressive department store perfume salespeople.
Oh, yeah, right.
They're trying to tackle you to rope you into a game. It's not quite that bad. So.
Right. Exactly. No, it's genuinely people who are friendly people looking for, welcoming you to a game or looking for a game or whatever. Yeah.
Here comes the 10th season of the Armchair Dragoons podcast, mentioned in dispatches. Let's thank all of our Patreon supporters who pledged at the top level. A huge thank you to Stagger Wing, Martok, Patrick Garrity, Fred and his dog, Mike Quigley, Joseph Knorr, Treb Corey, Robert, Patrick Mullen, Kevin Bertram, Chet Bell, and Hellcat6 for their support of the Armchair Dragoons and helping us to bring you the best strategy gaming content on the web. You too can sign up as a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/armchairdragoons.
So, Gary, I understand part of the plan here is you're going live from BGF, from the War Room, similar to what you did at Winterfest.
We are absolutely going to make the attempt. It may fail, but we did manage to succeed at Winterfest, so I have some confidence that we'll be able to do that. We'll see. I'll actually start doing bandwidth testing and that kind of stuff, and we'll have a table set aside for broadcasting and recording purposes that is conveniently located right next to the Wi-Fi hotspot, which is literally hanging on a hook on the wall. They still have not actually permanently mounted the Wi-Fi access points. I don't know why.
Are they thinking that people are going to, at some point, give up on Wi-Fi and not want it?
They might, considering the general shabbiness of the Wi-Fi at that facility. But the big surprise is, how has nobody not walked out with the access points? That's kind of what I am confused about.
Probably because they know it's shitty and don't want.
Yeah, who wants the shitty access point?
If you're going to steal one, steal a good one. So for media folks, we're going to be there. You're going to be there. Players Aid's going to be there. Russ is going to be there. Who else do we think might? Mike from My Own Worst Enemy is not going to be there. That's
unfortunate.
Joining us on the podcast tonight.
The man versus people have been there in the past. I don't know if they're coming this year or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking sort of the war game specific crowd.
Yeah, right.
Gary knew of that was going to be there.
Not off the top of my head. Not from the sort of content creator space anyway. I mean, we've got several of them, have been mentioned already, like I said.
Yeah. We will not get Justigard. He will be in New Zealand at the time.
Well, and he's in Seattle. It's not really convenient to fly. Having done it in the last 13 months or so, it is not particularly convenient to fly from Columbus to Seattle or vice versa. So
yes, but even if he were so inclined, he will actually be in New Zealand.
I hope he's visiting Hobbiton.
I'm not really sure. But I will explain in a few minutes. I'm not sure who. So I mean, Dan can't. He's not allowed out of Canada. I think there's a restraining order that the rest of the world has to keep Dan in Canada.
I'm pretty sure he's on the terrorist watch list.
Probably. And I don't think we can get Mo because there's still hockey playoffs or something at that time. So I'm not sure we can get Mo. Plus, at any point that the percentage of non-war games exceeds 10%, Mo is suddenly not interested. So.
Well, though, that might be. Well, no, that's not really. I mean, facetiously okay, but I mean, trust me, there's some non-war games happening at Compass Expo. So,
I'm on Mo.
I mean, some of them are by Compass, in fact. But there's plenty of wargaming action, and I'd personally like to see. One of the things that I don't feel like I see very much other than Compass Expo, is Compass stuff getting played on tables at conventions? And maybe that's just the conventions I go to. That's very plausible. But we're going to bust that up this year at Origins with Third World War. So there's that. And actually, we're talking about there is talk of Fatal Alliances for Compass Expo in 2023 too, which I'm super excited about if that happens. I will literally plan which Compass Expo I'm going to based on the chances of getting into Fatal Alliances.
I've had brief border wars on the table at 3 of the last 4 conventions I've been to.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great light, short convention game too.
Well,
so Gary, I don't know.
There's 4 games in the box, so you can get at least 2 of them running simultaneously.
If you got an extra deck.
Which I do.
Yes, you do now, yes.
So Gary, I don't know. Don't hate me. I don't know Fatal Alliances. What is that?
It is the World War I version of World in Flames.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it runs in roughly real time.
No, you could get through a big. First of all, World War I runs faster than World War II does because there's less units. There's less map. And less rules, generally speaking. But also, if we were to play, we talked about this at Winterfest about doing World in Flames for next year, and we believe we could get a couple solid years of play in the course of that week. So I don't know that we would finish, but you might, if you can hit 1943, you might end up reaching a decision point. So
there was, so for folks that don't know, World in Flames, massive. I mean, it's sort of the Uber game of World War II that is several echelons below what you think is practical for playing the entire globe. I mean, am I wrong? Isn't that a relatively
well? It doesn't have a map for Antarctica like Absolute Victory does. So,
but it, I think Absolute Victory is at like Corps or Army level, whereas World in Flames is like at platoon level or something.
Oh, it's World in Flames. No, World in Flames is a Corps level, but there are also divisional level. The quote unquote divisions.
Yes.
I'm not 100% clear on what the unit scale is supposed to be in Absolute Victory. It's at least Army level, though.
Yeah. Well, but the so the World in Flames guys, because again, like we Australian Design Group, like it's one of the ones that I track for Tuesday Newsday. They actually have an upcoming World in Flames. It's the World in the WIFCon.
WIFCon.
World in Flames Con.
This is not the first one either. They've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, this is the 2023 edition. It will start on Friday, July 28th. And the last day of play is Saturday, August 5th.
Yeah, that's about a week,
yes. Right? Due to the size of the facility, we will be limited to only 3 games, 18 players max.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when we did the little pop-up OCS thing in Columbus, when I say we, I was not involved in this. I showed up for like an afternoon, but I wasn't there beyond that. But there was a pop-up super top secret OCS playtest con that was held in Columbus during COVID, really. And I mean, they probably had 15 to 20 people. I think he said they drew 18 people, and it was a small room. I mean, that room was probably no bigger than 500 square feet, and it was fine. You could fit that many people in there.
Yeah. No, I got a kick out of the fact that they're going to have 18 guys playing 3 games for the entire week. They're going to play the 1 game for the whole week. And honestly, probably still not finish.
They might not. But then again, the folks going to WIFCon are not noobs, okay? So they ought to know what they're doing.
Yeah, they ought to at least know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one did catch my eye. So as we're talking Buckeye Game Fest stuff, I was going to ask, in terms of other smaller conventions, Gary, you mentioned sort of Compass Con, and we all know about Winterfest. Aside from the Concept Expos and the Origins of the world, any other smaller ones that you've made it to lately that a little more on the wargaming side that you had a good time with? I know COVID kind of fucked everything up for a couple of weeks there, but
lately, no, not really. So the other things that are kind of on the radar though are Winter Offensive. That's MMP's event in January near Maryland. It's in Maryland. It's near Baltimore. And that's a good event, but it's dominated by ASL and GCACW and a handful of other things. It could be a table or two of like everything else running there.
Yeah.
But Kansas City Historical Games Fest actually sounds pretty good. That's theoretically derivable from where I'm at. That sounds like a pain, but it's theoretically derivable. The problem with it theoretically derivable is I got to take like 2 extra days to get there and back, right? And that makes that's fairly unappealing to have entire two days of personal time at work just to burn just driving. right? So that makes flying a much more attractive option to Kansas City. And last I checked airfares to Kansas City, they were fairly expensive. San Diego Historical Games Convention is another one that I've had my eye on. It's a pretty small event, a couple hundred people. You rub shoulders with a lot of big shots, get your ass kicked in Empire of the Sun by Mark Herman, all that stuff. So that's not what I'm telling them at the moment is I am not yet mathematically eliminated from that. And I'll point out that there's 2 Compass Expos this year. There's one in the spring in May and one in the fall at the regular Veterans Day weekend date. And I'll go to one of the 2, but I don't know which one yet.
Yeah. So David, obviously, your publishers are dragging you into a handful of these. Are you going to make it to Spiel this year?
So I would love to make it to Spiel. I have not seen I haven't seen any of the folks that I used to sort of hang out with when I lived in the UK since 2019 when I was at Spiel then, right? So if I did go to Spiel this year, it would give me the chance to see all of those people. Having said that, probably not, because the time investment for flying and the extreme cost of Spiel makes it kind of out of touch. So we'll see. I'll definitely be at Gen Con because I'll have a couple of new games with Osprey there. Definitely be at Origin.
Hey, are they making hotel reservations for you at Gen Con too? I'm not asking if they're paying for it. I'm asking you if they're making the reservations, because that's worth at least $200 for Gen Con.
Let me put it this way. I'm not going to Gen Con unless Osprey's making the reservations and paying for it.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
Yeah. So
any convention is a lot more fun when someone else is footing the bill.
Somebody else is paying for it. I hope I don't offend anyone when I say this. Gen Con is not my first choice of conventions to go to. So I'm only going there if Osprey wants me to be there because games are being released.
Yeah.
I will go to Origins because Origins is great. I like Origins. Like Gary, I would love to go to SD HistCon, and I'm talking the West, the West one that's Veterans Day weekend, etc. It's expensive to fly to San Diego.
Yeah, it is
ridiculously expensive. So we'll see if that happens. And I mentioned earlier that I'll be at Circle DC. I have never been to WBC. I would love to go to WBC. So we'll see if that happens. I don't know.
Yeah, the other problem you have with San Diego, again, Gary, one of the reasons Winterfest can do what they do is that they almost have to pay you to stay at the hotel.
It's Sandusky in February.
Yeah,
they're practically paying us to stay in those rooms.
There is no off season in San Diego, right? I mean, there's no bad weather season at which you can get this kind of hotel room.
What's funny is I just looked at the tickets today, right? Thinking, oh Jesus, the reason that the tickets are so expensive is it's Veterans Day weekend. Nope. They're just always expensive. So.
Yeah. No kidding. Circle DC would have been great if I could have done it. I only have so many bullets in the gun that I can fire to get away from work. And I'm not dragging family along with me either. There are limited ones that I can get away for. That's one of the reasons Circle DC is not happening. One of the other things is, not necessarily that I'm having somebody else pay for the convention, but ones where I don't have to foot the bill, which is why the Columbus ones like Origins and BGF are so attractive. Is I stay with mom and dad. Like my parents live in Columbus, so being able to stay there makes those conventions very easy to do. The other thing that I'm going to be doing the same week as Buckeye Game Fest is you're going to be seeing a bunch of Armchair Dragoons coverage from the Gamma Expo and Trade Show this year because we were picked for the hosted media program with Gamma. I had no idea, I don't know if we were like 2 of 3 people that applied to, if we were 2 of the organizations picked out of 3 total that applied, or if we were 2 organizations picked out of, because I think there's only one other hosted media organization. If it was the 2 of us out of 50, did they throw darts at a dartboard? I don't know how we got picked, but we did. So
I assume a clerical error was made.
I have no doubt. But the other thing is, so I had emailed back just to ask a clarification on the message that said, hey, you've been picked. Here's what we've got. This is, we're covering your hotel. We're taking care of these things for you. And so here's what you got to do for all of these things. And I emailed back just a real quick, hey, I think I'm reading this correct, but I just want to confirm that what I'm reading is actually there. And within like 30 minutes, I had a reply from the executive director of Gamma, not just saying, yes, you did read that right, but I'm also really looking forward to talking to you about wargaming at Origins. So they know exactly who I am.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing.
I got to assume they're under new management.
Yeah. Well, they have been for the last couple of years. But yeah, I'm now I've kind of got the willies. Like, is this a good thing that they know who I am, or should I be scared crapless at this point?
Well, what is Jason Matthews' position with Gamma now?
Jason is a board member, but I don't know that Jason was in the decision-making cycle for this program at Gamma. I'm expecting to see him at Gamma Expo because he's a board member.
Right.
Like, they gotta sort of be there. But this was John Stacy, the executive director, that had emailed me back.
Okay.
And I've dealt with, it's going to make me sound way more important than I actually am. I've dealt with a bunch of the executive directors over the years for different reasons. When I was living in Columbus and a grad student at Ohio State, I had worked with Anthony Gallela a bunch because we did a big research project that we partnered with Gamma to do. And so I got to know Anthony through that. And Anthony and I are still friends today. Like, we, living in Columbus, we'd go to soccer games together a bunch and hang out some. And we've been friends for years. John Ward took over from Anthony. And that was when I'd left town also. John and I've dealt with John a bunch when we first started up the wargaming program again at Origins, and then also for some of the Origins War College stuff over the years. John and I didn't always see eye to eye on a lot of things, probably most things. The one great thing about John Ward that I always liked is anytime you had a question about what it was they were doing, John would always take the time to explain it to you. You wouldn't always agree with his reasoning, but he would always take the time to say, this is why I made the decision I did. You were never left wondering why something was done. Again, you might disagree with it, but you were never wondering why. John Stacy, who is the current executive director, I have not dealt with nearly as much. The main person we deal with at Origins for the wargaming event stuff is their event manager, Paul McGraw. And I can't ever think of a single bad thing to say about Paul. The dude is a wonderful guy to work with. We've been working with him for over a decade now, dealing with event stuff there. Paul is one of those guys that just makes problems go away. I don't know how he does it. The dude just fixes everything that comes anywhere near him. And he's a great dude to work with. And so we've worked with him way more than we've worked with John Stacy over the years at this point. But I've had some exchanges with John about trying to do more support for wargaming at Origins. And I guess now he wants to actually talk to me about it at Gamma Expo. So we'll see. Gary, you and I had talked about this once before, but I don't remember if it was on a podcast or just a separate phone call. But I do want to throw an appeal out there. Look, we're planning on talking Buckeye Game Fest, but I do want to throw this out because this is going to be released in plenty of time for people to make decisions about Origins. One of the issues that people have complained about over the years with Origins, and it is a fair complaint, is that Origins doesn't pay enough attention to wargaming. And I get it. Like, I've watched wargaming dwindle over the last 20 years at Origins and been pushing that rock uphill for a decade trying to help bring it back. And Gary, I'm not saying anything you haven't seen as well, right?
Right. No, we're in broad alignment on this. There are reasons to choose Origins as a wargamer and reasons to choose not Origins as a wargamer. And where you are, I've actually come around a lot on this, is I think the ideal place for you to be given what you are doing at Origins, which is kind of increasing visibility, making sure that wargaming, analog wargaming especially, although you do have a couple of digital events, has a kind of a showplace on that giant marquee that is the Origins gaming floor. Right.
Yeah. But the point that came up in the conversation Gary and I were having, and again, I don't know that this was on a podcast. I think it was just a discussion you and I were having one day about some of the convention plans, is one of the reasons that Origins ignores the wargamers is the wargamers aren't there. It's very easy to ignore people that aren't in the room. And I get that it's this vicious cycle of, well, they ignore us, so we're not going to show up. Well, we're not there, so it's easier to ignore us. Well, we're not going to show up because they ignore us. At some point, somebody's got to take that first first step. And
Yes.
so if the war gamers want to be taken more seriously by Origins and want to be considered more by Origins, you got to show up, and you got to show up more than just once. You got to show that you're going to be a consistent, meaningful presence at the convention in order to get your voice heard and to have it matter. We've gotten to the point now where we have a lot of flexibility and a little bit of cachet to pull off things in the gaming hall as a part of the wargaming program, because we've been a consistent presence there for almost a decade. Next year will be the 10th year that we've been doing the wargaming program there. It'll be 10 years. It won't be the 10th year because we lost the COVID year.
You should ask him if you can bring an M5 Stewart for next year.
You know, if we were Hasbro, we could
let Hasbro do it. That's all I'm saying. Hasbro got away with it.
Yeah.
For the sake of Axis and Allies and Zombies too,
yes.
Which is damn disappointing, let me tell you.
As Jim Ozarski put it, it was the answer to a question that absolutely no one was asking. But seriously, you know, the reason Buckeye Game Fest gives the War Room a lot of latitude for kind of self-supervising is there are a lot of war gamers that the percentage of war gamers at Buckeye Game Fest relative to overall con attendance is pretty high compared to most other general board gaming conventions.
Yes.
And that's not a controversial statement. That's mathematical fact.
No, that's true. But here's another variable there that you and I have talked about, so I know you know this, but folks might not. So when you're a convention organizer and you're arranging with the location to host the event, and especially if it's an event happening over multiple days, when that facility is a hotel, part of your deal is probably going to be that here's the rate, and then here's the rate if you sell so many person nights of hotel rooms that are associated with the convention, right? And this Buckeye Game Fest is held at the Hyatt in downtown Columbus. It's a huge convention hotel. It's not held. Buckeye Game Fest is not at the convention center, but it's at one of the adjacent hotels that easily by itself holds enough convention space and meeting space to swallow 10 BGFs and nobody would notice.
Yep.
So frankly, the BGF people, and they've told me this, so I don't feel, and they didn't have me sign an NDA or anything. So now I'm telling everybody. They love the War Room because the attendees of the War Room tend to stay at the hotel. I'm staying at the hotel. So that's 5 or 6, whatever it is, man nights just from me alone. And if there's another 10 people there, that eats up a huge chunk of the required man nights at the hotel that the convention wants to use, because then they have to pay the venue a lot less. So
yeah. So
that was probably, I'm very fatigued, and that's probably a thoroughly half-assed explanation of this. But that's the way it works. The convention wants to sell hotel rooms because that's in their contract, and the War Room sells hotel rooms at a much greater rate than the regular event attendees do.
Yes. Yeah, but even so, I mean, having the War Room open for several days ahead of time certainly makes it more attractive to war gamers. But even so, folks like me that aren't there for the entire week of the War Room, look, in part because I'm going to be in Reno with Gamma, right? But that's
Brant.
I know. Even if I wasn't going to be in Reno again, I still wasn't going to be there early enough to get there for the War Room, because there's only so many days I'd get away to do this stuff. It's still
you'd be amazed how many extra days can be arranged for when it's an all expenses paid trip to Reno.
Okay, geez. But there's still a lot of war gamers that'll be there just for the weekend. Buckeye Game Fest pays attention to the war gamers because the war gamers show up.
Yes.
Origins can afford to not pay attention to the war gamers because the war gamers don't show up.
Right. No, that's absolutely right.
If all the D&D players said, fuck it, we're not going to Origins anymore, Origins would have to pay attention. That's 3,000 people. Now, we're not going to get 3,000 war gamers to show up at Origins. We can't get 3,000 war gamers to agree on anything, much less all showing up the same convention. But if you want Origins to pay attention to war gamers and to wargaming, you've got to be there. It's got to be more than a 1-year thing, because the first year you show up, they're going to, oh, hey, there's a bunch of war gamers here. And they're not going to, great, we got a bunch of war gamers this year. Let's see if they come back next year. It's going to take a couple of years for them to really pay attention to you and to actually care. And this goes for the vendors also. We'd love to have more war game vendors there. I'm not going to tell war game vendors they need to show up and lose money, though, because I want these guys to stay in business. The reality is the first year you're there, folks are going to go, oh, hey, there's a war game company here. Oh, that's kind of cool. And if it's somebody they haven't seen before, folks are going to go, oh, hey, I should check this stuff out. This is new. This is neat. This is different, right? The novelty factor is going to kick in. The second year you're there, people go, oh, these guys are back again. Oh, hey, cool. What do you got that's new this year? By the third year, they're expecting you to be there. They're looking for you. They're planning on finding you to do stuff. And that's one of the lessons I learned when I was a vendor there, but it's also one of the lessons that you will hear from other vendors, from, Don at Enterprise Games. The first year he was there, people weren't really sure what he was doing or what he was selling. Now wargamers are looking for Enterprise Games. When Flying Pig first started, people were, oh, hey, Mark's got a new company. And then by the third year, where is Mark's company? Like, they were looking for Flying Pig to be there somewhere. So
yeah, Lord knows Don gets a decent amount of my Origins budget. So usually in spare copies of Commands and Colors Napoleonics.
Yes. Well, you did that to yourself.
I did that to myself.
So
actually, I just didn't want to go back home to get the damn pieces. So I could have just driven home and probably been back in an hour, but that would have been a huge
sticker.
It was less of a pain for me to pay $75, whatever it costs, for a new copy of Commands and Colors Napoleonics, outweighed the pain in the ass it would have taken me to go home, come back, drive around for half an hour looking for a place to park because I gave up the good parking spot, pay again to park. I mean, hey, I can have an extra copy of Commands and Colors Napoleonics. Why not?
Yeah.
Sure. Now I got to find a place on the shelf for it, but that's my problem. Now, your convention experience may differ from mine, but I have literally never, as a consumer at a convention, I have literally never approached a vendor in that way. If I approach a vendor's table, I know what they have. I don't need to ask, hey, what's new? I've already done the research. So I'm not even kidding. I mean, if it's like a destination vendor booth, I have already done the legwork. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that there's not neat stuff to see that I didn't plan on or foresee, because there's always tons and tons of that. Is the G-Dex people going to be there at Origins this year?
They're going to be there again this year.
Okay.
So you're going to have a whole bunch of digital dudes right in the middle of the exhibit hall again this year.
Yep, and nobody talking to any of them.
Putting on the journalist hat, I've always made it a point to go find all of those small press folks, the one product company that's sort of tucked in the crappiest possible booth you can get in the back corner of the exhibit hall, and go talk to those guys and find out what they've got, just because it might be something kind of cool. It might be crap, but it might be something kind of cool, and you can find some really, as one of the guys pointed out at the very first convention I was ever at, look, WizKids started in a 10x10 booth somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So did Wizards of the Coast.
And
Peter Atkinson personally shucking the Primal Order, which I probably bought directly from Pete, thinking about it at a Gen Con.
Yeah. We had Chris Pramus on the very first episode. Mm-hmm. Green Ronin started in one of those.
Mm-hmm. But Chris, in fairness, Chris was not a noob when they started Green Ronin.
This is true. But they started in a 10x10 booth with 3 products. But yeah, I mean, everybody starts somewhere. DVG would have started in the tiniest little booth before David made him a runaway hitmaker. I'm kidding. It's not all David's games that are making DVG a runaway hitmaker. But we had to throw David a bone because he's here. So, but yeah, go find all those little dudes and go talk to those little guys and find out what they've got, and and make it a point there. But you've got to show up to get the folks to pay attention to you, and that's the big key in all of that.
So in that context, though, what I think that looks like in terms of long-term wargaming strategy at Origin specifically is a lean away from monster game. To be completely truthful. You got a game that takes a couple days to play, like say, I've got to pick an old game. Of course, Victory Game, Civil War, you play that in 2 days. That's different, but stuff that you're going to need to play for a week at a time is not a good fit for these events anymore. These 4-day events, which is what makes Buckeye Game Fest and the very small handful of other full week events really priceless, right? These are the games. If you don't have any wargamers near you that want to play OCS, but I can't because there's nobody that plays OCS here in Bugfuck, Ohio. You might be surprised about the OCS playing population of Bugfuck, Ohio, but you can go to Buckeye Game Fest and get into a 5 or 6 day game. And that's a luxury you don't necessarily have at a big convention that is trying to be as much as possible for everybody. Now, on the other hand, conversely, for the sort of the omni gamer that wants to play a bunch of different stuff, even a bunch of different war games, you'll vouch that there are folks who show up at the Dragoons zone at Origins every year and play nothing else and just play every game that happens there, and it's different stuff every time. So for folks who want to try a lot of different stuff or try new stuff, Origins is a wonderful event, right? And especially if you're into multiple kinds of games. If you're also into card games or RPGs or whatever, it's a really strong RPG convention.
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 people that show up with us. They build their schedule around our CPXs and then figure out what other war games they can play around that. And they basically sort of set up shop with us. And the outside observer might think they are part of our staff because they are there as much as our staff. And for some reason, like all of them are named Scott. It's just
you really do need to give them T-shirts so that they can just pretend that they are on staff.
It's crossed my mind on occasion. So that has actually come up. So
well, Brent, you guys, I know we're here to talk about ostensibly Buckeye Game Fest, but on the top of Origins before we leave it, you guys last year. So first of all, let's say I go to Origins for the first time 4 or 5 years ago when I moved here, and your guys' area is kind of the only area that feels like a home spot, right? You can browse the vendor area, you can go into the massive open game area, whatever. But if you just want to go to an area that feels like a little bit of a home and you can squat and play some stuff that you feel comfortable doing, that your guys' area is that. But even last year, Tim, you mentioned from Catastrophe, was previewing some stuff. I got to meet Kevin Bertram in person for the first time to demo Force Votes for Women, which was the game I was most looking forward to playing last year, and I got to play it early there.
It looks really good.
So it's amazing. It's awesome, and it's just like you don't get that opportunity everywhere, right? It's a super chill environment where you also have the opportunity to play some games that you're really looking forward to playing early and that kind of stuff. So it affords a lot of opportunity in that regard.
Yeah, we're going to have both Catastrophe and Fort Circle back again with us this year. We got a limited dose of Fort Circle last year. Just Kevin had to leave because he had a family thing come up. But he's going to have Tori and Jason with him this year, so it's going to be a little more robust. We're actually going to talk a bunch about Origins on our season finale at the end of the spring here, because it'll be our last podcast before we're all loading up to head off to Origins. So
well, if I'm not going to be on that show, allow me to demand power and Wi-Fi at the Armchair Dragoons area for this year.
We had one, but not the other last year. But yes, we will make those arrangements for this year. So we will get that sorted out. The last thing I want to close out with, just so folks can go ahead and get it on the calendar and start planning for it. Folks know that the Dragoons, we've had a handful of digital conventions going back to the pandemic. We did the first one in the fall of 2020. Late summer of 2020, and we've done MLK weekend for the last 3 years, which does put us in conflict with Winter Offensive going forward. Tough. Like there's only so many holiday weekends we got to work with. We're gonna have to work around that. But we've done, I think it's 6 digital game conventions at this point. Plus we're coming up on our 3rd Connections Online in a couple of weeks here. We're actually going to do our first in-person convention coming up this fall. And so it is the weekend of October 20, 21, and 22. It's the second to last weekend of October. And it's going to be down here in Cary, North Carolina. Gamers Armory is actually hosting it. We're going to hold our little mini convention in the store. And we've worked it out with the staff there that we're going to get about half the store in there that we're going to be able to take over. We're going to be able to set stuff up, leave it set up over the whole weekend. So we'll be able to get we're going to have a couple of tables pushed together for some bigger games. There's been talk of 3 days of Gettysburg. I'm not 100% sure we're going to pull that off, but that's one of the ones folks have talked about.
I know you're not going to pull off finishing it in 3 days.
Oh God, no. It's the only Civil War game I know that moves in real time, or perhaps a bit slower.
No, it's considerably slower than real time.
It depends on how many people you have playing. If you have 3 per side, you might get it done in real time.
You could do simultaneous. It's chit pull game. You could do simultaneous activations on different sides of the battlefield. That would speed things up considerably.
Yeah. But anyway, so 2021-22 October is the plan. We will have registration opened up after Connections Online. So it'll be around the time Buckeye Game Fest is happening, or very shortly thereafter is when we're going to have registration opened up. One of the things, because we are in the store, we are going to have to cap the number of attendees. It's going to be somewhere around 45 attendees is going to be the cap on that for the paid folks, because
I'm calling the fire marshal.
Well, we're going to run out of table space at a certain point, and I don't want folks showing up as like paid attendees expecting to sit down, and we are literally out of chairs to put them in.
Right, and they got to play. They're forced to play euchre out on the sidewalk.
Yeah, well, or they're stuck with the Pokemon pre-release tournament on the other half of it.
You don't play euchre in North Carolina. Come on.
I don't know what they do in North Carolina. They eat fabulous barbecue in North Carolina. That's what they do.
Yeah. So look, this is going to be at the store. You guys have seen when we've done the AC/DC happy hours from the store, where we've walked around with the camera and showed everybody what they've got on the shelves there. If you're an ASL fan, there is the giant wall of ASL that's a bunch of shit you can't get literally anywhere else. So this is a great opportunity to come check out the store, to come game with the Dragoons. It's going to be a smaller crowd. We've talked with the staff at Gamers Armory, and they're willing to work with us for a couple of these events, with the eventual goal of outgrowing them. We're hopefully going to outgrow the store. So we're looking in October. This is going to be the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly, is what we're going to be calling it. So it's the Fall Assembly 2023. Folks that want to come join us, please do so. We're going to have a dozen or so tables, a couple of big ones pushed together. So we're going to have room for some bigger games, and folks that want to get involved, just send up a flare. We're not going to need a lot of volunteers. Like, there's no vendor hall going on here, right? There's no merch tables or anything. So we're in the store. Like, we are literally in the vendor hall. Go buy the games from the store, and you'll be able to do that. We've got a bunch of Dragoons over here on the East Coast. So some of our staff, or some of the website staff, are going to show up and be involved with this. But we'd love for folks to come hang out with us and game with us and be a part of our first in-person, Dragoons game convention here. So we could wrangle Gary or Dave to come down and join us. We'll have to see.
I am not yet mathematically eliminated.
I figure if you're trying to do the Fall Compass Expo and or SD Hist, that those are going to be a little close in date to try and pull off both us and them in the same year.
Yeah, and both of them are. Compass Expo is a drivable situation because I got somebody to go with, but SD HistCon and North Carolina are probably flying situations, which on the other hand means I have to take less time off. So that's a plus. But on the other hand, it means I have to fly, which I hate because airline seating is designed for miniature people that do not actually exist.
Well, no, Dave exists.
He's not the size of a small child, however. So that's what I'm talking about. If you're 10, you might fit in those seats comfortably. If you're older than that, you will not.
Yeah.
So, and then you got the, I'm going to probably have a layover getting to North Carolina. So, I'm just whining though. So
for the longest time, and this may have changed with the pandemic, but for the longest time, there was a twice-a-day direct flight from Raleigh to Columbus.
I'm not flying out of Columbus anymore, remember?
That's your fault.
Well, I guess I could drive to Columbus. Then I might as well drive. I got to drive 2 hours to Columbus. No, I'm not doing that.
See, I show up with a solution and you still complain.
It's a shitty solution.
So in any event, what we don't have with the Dragoons Fall Assembly is we don't have a hotel attached to the game store. So you will have to find a little hotel locally, but
thank you, Brant, for allowing everyone to crash at your place.
Yeah, you're I got plenty big yard out back. You're welcome to camp. I'll run a hose out there for you. No, there are a bunch of hotels in the area where Gamers Armory is located. And so there's plenty of options in that area. It's not going to be that bad for folks that need a hotel. Just across I-40, there's a half a dozen of them over in the Crossroads area that will be pretty easy for folks to use and to get to and from the store. But again, there's we're at a store. We're not attached to a hotel. And because we're not attached to a hotel and using their facilities, we're not really able to do what Gary was talking about earlier, which is sort of negotiate for some sort of block room rate or anything, because we're not.
I'm so tempted to bring my tent and pitch it in your backyard.
You're welcome to. I'll have my dog say hi to you when I let him out.
You have no idea how big my tent is.
You have no idea how big my dog is.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'll tell you, Brent, I'm here. I'm setting the tent up in the backyard right now.
So anyway, that's something folks can start looking forward to and planning for. So October 2021-22 we're going to be at Gamers Armory in Cary. And so folks that want to go look that up, you've seen what it looks like on the inside. Just go watch any of our past live streams from our from our AC/DC happy hours. We do have a handful of the different content creators that are all local around here as well that I'm expecting are going to show up, be a part of this. I'd mentioned it to Nate, Gimpy Gamer, that I'm hoping Nate is able to come over and join us. War Game Central, that dude, he's actually local to us here, so we may get him to show up. One of the developers on the Fighting Formations series is local here, so Brian may show up. He's the guy that did the Kharkov game. So we may get, we'll definitely have some Fighting Formation stuff on the table at some point. Who else we get beyond that? Who knows? We'll see. We've been working with the store for this, but this is the first real public announcement of it. We've been sort of hinting at it in Tuesday Newsday, but this is the first real public announcement of it. So, David, final thoughts on Buckeye Game Fest or other small conventions?
Come to Buckeye Game Fest. You won't regret it. If you can make it, come. It's awesome. It's my favorite convention.
It is definitely an enjoyable one. And it's great because there is a good percentage of war game playing there.
Yeah. Yep. You can, everything you want is there. Yep. And except, full disclosure, except vendor hall. If you're looking for buying the new hotness, go elsewhere.
Yeah.
If you want to play games, come to Buckeye Game Fest.
Yeah. We did mention that up front. Like the very limited 3-booth vendor hall is like mostly arts and crafts stuff. So
that's right.
Yeah. And the flea market thing that they did last year, that had, I went and glanced through it. There was like 0 war games there.
Right.
Yeah. I think once Buckeye Game Fest had to do away with the auction, similar to when Origins did away with the auction, when Buckeye Game Fest had the auction, it was pretty enjoyable, not just because you had a lot of really good stuff that showed up in the auction, but because Bruce was a riot when he was the auctioneer.
Mm-hmm.
Back when Bruce Rife was doing the auctions, he was a blast. So
I find that believable. I mean, even when they had the consignment store, I thought it worked very well. Maybe that was a pain to run. I don't know. But the whole, you got a table. They got one table for like flea market, and you sign up for a time slot and you show up at that time and you like put your stuff on the table, and then an hour later you leave. That was weird. Who cares? I mean, if people want to bring stuff to buy and sell, maybe just let them do that on the side. Said we got nothing to do with that. Maybe there's legal reasons why they can't do that. I don't know. I don't know. But it's a great event.
Yeah. So, Gary, any final thoughts on Buckeye Game Fest or other similar conventions?
It's a great event. It might be. I don't think it's my favorite convention, but it's right up there. It allows
the one you help organize and run isn't your favorite convention.
I am much less important than that statement implies. So all I do really is just kind of pass the word around and maybe facilitate some communication and put people in touch with the right people. That's really all I'm doing. And I also have, in consideration, I get a free pass to the convention, and that's it. So, but it is a great event. It allows you a lot of different dimensions as a wargamer. And I'm talking about it from a wargaming perspective. If you want to go play Terraforming Mars, cool, they got that too. But if you want to play war games, there's going to be big war games up to very big war games, right? That are going to take the whole week to play, down to war games that are going to take an hour, right? And everything in between. There will be games that take all day, games that take a couple of days, games that take 5-6 days, games that take an hour. So whatever kind of war games you want to do, you can do it at Buckeye Game Fest. So it really is. And you've got your own space. It's separate from the giant 300-person rest of the convention. You've got the room. I mean, you're until Thursday, the war room and the staff are the only people there, right? So it's quiet. It's you can focus on what you're doing. It's actually, I think, a little refreshing that there isn't a huge vendor presence, because I don't have to pay attention to that. Yes, I will go walk through there. Since Don from Enterprise Games does not come anymore, I have not since spent a nickel in that vendor room. But
you can now afford to eat out.
Yeah. Oh, and we haven't mentioned, speaking of that, good point. We haven't mentioned the food court that's literally down the hall. where you can get all kinds of it's basically not dissimilar from a mall food court, right? But you got a Subway and you got an ice cream place, and it's the Subway is like $1 more expensive than any old Subway. You've got an Indian place, which is really very good, actually. You've got burgers, you've got pizza, you've got Asian, you've got all kind of stuff. So it's also, and Columbus is a pretty good food town anyway, if you want to go out for fancy food, or even go across the street and brave the crowds at North Market, which I will surely do at least twice. But it's also soup. Matt, I just want to get back to the game. I got to go grab a 6-inch BMT from Subway. You could totally do that.
Yes.
And it's literally like 50 steps away, in the ground floor of the hotel. And if you want something fancier, there's places all over the place, like within easy walking distance.
Yep, absolutely. So guys, we are well past David's bedtime, so thank you very much, David, for sticking with us and indulging us on this one. We appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at BGF. And Gary, thank you for making us the 18th different media hit that you've done in the last week.
Always a delight.
And we'll let you go finish polishing off that bottle of scotch so you can get your voice back for tomorrow night when you've only got 3 shows.
Right. Tomorrow night is my game night, actually.
Ooh.
So last Blitzkrieg is what we're still playing.
Are you down to 1 OCS game?
I'm down to 0 OCS games at the moment.
Because last Blitzkrieg's BCS, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yeah. So at one point, Gary
we'll fix this. We'll fix this. I was in 3 OCS games a week. That is true. We'll fix this at some point, but right now I got to get this room behind me figured out. And that's progress has been made over the last couple of weeks.
There you go. All right. And so audience, thank you for sticking with us through this episode of Mention and Dispatches. Look forward to seeing you at the conventions this summer and into the fall. If you can, come see us in the fall for the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly. If you can come see us at Buckeye Game Fest, do that. Come see us at Origins. WBC, Circle DC, SD Hist East, Mythic Con down here in the Carolinas.
They should call it SD Heast.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Talk to Harold. Talk to Harold. It's
very catchy. Marketing genius over here in Ohio.
Consim Expo. What else we got? BGG.con. Historic KC Fest. There's plenty of them. Go
Pimp your wargaming events calendar, Brant.
Yeah, I know. Just go hit the wargame events calendar. All right, audience. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next time on another episode of Mention and Dispatches.
Everybody have a great night.